If you clicked on this video, it's probably because you have had a history of difficulty when it comes to having hard conversations with the people that you care about and the people that matter most to you. And the truth is, you're not alone in that. So many people struggle expressing themselves. They struggle having the hard conversations that they need to be able to have with the people that matter about the things that really, really matter. In July of this year, my business partner and I at our organization, Evolve Ventures, hosted a live event that we titled Out of the Mud. We just surpassed our 59th event, I think. We're about to host our 60th. And the topic of conversation was the right way to have hard conversations. And in that event, it's a free live event. We host it every single month. In that event, we talked to the audience about why do we struggle having conversations with people? What is it that's getting in the way? Why does it feel impossible to really express what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you need? And how can you do it better? How can you have the level of self assuredness and self confidence to be able to really say what's on your mind and what's in your heart and say it in a way where people can really, really hear you and can understand you? And what I intend on doing in this video is unpacking that for you. Obviously, we would have shared more in the event. Those events are wonderful. So if you're ever interested in that, you can click the link down below to register. We're hosting another one this month. So when this comes out, this will be October 25th. It will be hosting this 4 days from today, so on the 29th. And we're going to be diving into breaking free from social pressures. But what I'm going to be diving into today is what we talked about in that event in July. How do you have hard conversations? How do you say what matters? How do you do it in a way where you leave that conversation feeling like you were heard, like you got your point across, like you didn't miss anything, and like you matter? And what I want to start off with is, why do we struggle with this in the first place? Why is it so unbelievably hard to say what we mean, to say what we think, to express ourselves to the people that we desperately care about? For the far majority of us, it's because none of us were taught. I know I wasn't. I mean, I grew up in a home where the norm was yelling and screaming and even physical violence and aggression. If anyone ever had to bring something up, you kind of weren't allowed to. It's not like you were met with open arms and love and compassion, and the person you were talking to really, sat down and opened up with you and was really receptive to hearing what you had to say. In my home growing up, and in most homes growing up, what was modeled was you avoid and you don't bring up hard things and you don't say what you think and feel. And if you do, you yell and scream about it. And the other person yells and screams back at you. So you're basically taught from a very young age not to feel safe in your own body and to have an extremely dysregulated nervous system when going into having a difficult conversation. In the event, I showed this photo of my family, and it's this really attractive photo of us. We dress very well, and in the photo, I'm looking at it right now, and I'll try to prop it up on the screen if I can. But it's not a warm and inviting photo. It's very like glam, but it's not warm. It's not loving by any stretch. And my family might be different than yours, but if you were to look at your family, if you were to look at the way that conversations and dynamics were held in your family, were they met with safety? Was there authenticity, vulnerability? Was there trust? Was there honesty? Was productive conflict a thing? Probably not. For the grand majority of us, what did happen was inauthenticity, lying, hiding things, emotional guardedness and defensiveness. There was toxic conflict and avoidance. There was this massive resistance to change, tension, a lot of tension. And it's on a spectrum, right? There's some families that had it at a level 2, there's some families that had it at a level 100. But what really matters isn't necessarily the severity of it, but how it felt to you. The severity of what it felt like to you. And if you struggle having hard conversations, it's because you grew up in an environment that it wasn't safe to say what you were thinking. It wasn't safe to say what you were feeling. You didn't have this sense of, I'm going to be valued and validated for my experience, even if it's not the truth. Most of us were never modeled it. So, of course, when you're an adult, and even if it's a low stakes event and a low stakes ask or a low stakes request, you're going to freak out when you need to go make it because it was never safe. And your body only remembers what that was like. And when our brain is literally optimized and has evolved to keep us safe from harm, and to store the memories of every bad thing that happened so we can keep ourselves safe, of course that's going to be what happens to you. When the person at the checkout line asks you if you want to donate and you start having a panic attack inside because you don't want to look like the bad person. So you don't say, not really, but thanks. You freak out and you do the thing you didn't want to do because that's what you're used to. Most of us weren't taught. Now, that doesn't mean that it's okay. And that's the thing that I really want to make sure that I acknowledge here. Not knowing better is not an excuse for not doing better. And I know that's going to be hard to hear. And a lot of you are going to be like, you just said my brain was literally designed to keep me in this pattern. And now you're telling me it's my fault. No, it's your responsibility to fix it. I grew up in a very destructive environment. My family, we all did the best that we could for sure. But that doesn't mean it's okay to stay there. It doesn't mean that it's okay to use what John Gottman calls the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, which is criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling, as a way to have hard conversations or to not have them, to phrase it more accurately. Most of us grew up in destructive environments, yes. But it is up to you to make sure that you're giving yourself the life that you want, that really means something and matters to you. This is exactly what I had to do. I am a therapist who has been in therapy on and off since I was 16. I'm in therapy now, continuing to work on my communication and my self-talk and how I show up and practicing effective communication when I need to have hard conversations and state regulation, which I've made videos on most of those things and I'll continue to make videos on it. That's beyond the scope of this conversation, but we all owe it to ourselves to teach ourselves and to learn the things that we didn't learn growing up. A bad childhood is not an excuse for bad behavior in adulthood. And I know that might be really hard to hear. I say this to my clients all the time. And for the far majority of them, when they get to the place where they can actually really hear that, when they have that level of humility and vulnerability to be like, oh, honestly, you're right. That is true. That's when their lives change. Clients of mine have had really massive transformations in their life because they were willing to acknowledge and admit that yeah, you know what? I had some really really toxic and disruptive things happen in my life and in my childhood, and you know what? I let it control me. I didn't want to grow from it. I felt vindicated in what I did because this terrible stuff that happened to me. But I don't want to be like that anymore. I don't want to let my past justify my life. I don't want that to be the reason why I continue making the same mistakes over and over and over again. And it is possible for you too. It's possible to get to the place where you're able to have that within you. And this video is a huge part of that. So if you clicked on this, that's a massive first step. And that is one of the critical components of what's going to allow you to have hard conversations with other people, because you're not going to get extremely defensive. You're not going to get to the place where you're freaking out because somebody said something that activated that unhealed part of you. You might. You might. It is a possibility. Nobody's perfect. But you'll catch it. And you'll be able to really have that conversation and say, "Oh, you know what? I'm feeling really activated right now. I feel really activated. That thing that you just said, that brought something up within me. I need a minute. I need a minute." Most of us can't do that, and most of us don't do that. Most of us just engage in this oscillating fight for whoever's going to end up on top in the conversation. You're not dialoguing, you're fighting. And it's one of the big reasons why most relationships fail. I think the divorce rate is like way above 50% now in America. I don't know what it is in other countries, but I know in America it's huge. And again, I've done over 7,000 therapy sessions. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of clients and worked with them one on one. Very few people actually have good relationships of any kind: friendships, work relationships, family relationships, intimate relationships, peer relationships, whatever. So few people actually can really do it and can do it effectively. So, number one is really giving yourself the permission to understand what happened. Like, what happened to me? Not what's wrong with me. What happened to me? What did I go through? What were the experiences that I had growing up? How did they shape me? How did they make me think about myself and the world? Did they put me on the defense, or did they put me on, this victim need to protect and fawn mode of anyone says anything to me and I'm just going to bow down and appease so that I don't get hurt? Acknowledge that, and then give yourself the permission to acknowledge that you don't want to be like that anymore. That it is on you to really do something about it and to change. And that you're not going to fall victim to the four horsemen anymore, and you're going to do better. All of that is step one. Acknowledge what happened and acknowledge that you want to do better. Now here comes the three-part framework. And if you guys see me looking over to the right, left, right, whatever, this way, it's because I'm looking at my notes from what we talked about. So we dove into this three-part framework: repair, share, and reprocess. If you want to do better at having hard conversations, after you've acknowledged, after you've given yourself that permission slip, after you've really understood what got you here, now we're going to follow these three steps, okay? So step number one is repair. Before you dive into the conversation, before you start expressing your thoughts and feelings and concerns, notice what comes up in your body when you need to have the conversation. Identify what emotions you feel before you attempt to have the dialogue. Recognize what memories or intrusive thoughts are coming up that might make it hard to show up in the moment, and then find a way to ground yourself. Ground yourself in your body before beginning. This is all part of step one. So notice what comes up, identify the emotions you're feeling, recognize the memories or the intrusive thoughts, and then find a way to ground yourself. If most people did that first step, most arguments or most difficult conversations would never get to the place of argument, because you know the triggers and the activators that are coming up within you, and the discomfort and the dysregulation that you're feeling in your body that make it hard to actually have the dialogue. So step number one, before the conversation, repair what's within you. Repair what's coming up within you through grounding. Number two is share. So this is part two of this 3-step process. Share. How to share your need. Most times when we are having a difficult conversation and when we need to express something, it's because a need has gone unmet. Whether it's a need for certainty, a need for safety, a need for security, whether it's a need for connection, whether it's a need for mutual understanding about something and agreement, there's a need that's gone unmet. And that need has gone unmet, so you haven't talked about it, and it's built up, built up, built up, built up, and then that's when resentment comes in. And then that's where 6 months down the line, your partner forgets to pick up their socks off the floor and you flip your lid. And it seems disproportionate to the situation. The pinch doesn't match the ouch, but it's not about the sock. It's about everything that happened before that that you didn't express and acknowledge. If you do number one, you can get to the place where you will be regulated enough to do number two, which is actually share and acknowledge the need that has gone unmet. Observe without judgment. Observe your thoughts, observe your feelings, observe the thoughts of the other person. What are they thinking? What are they feeling? Not out of judgment, but because this is somebody that you love. This is somebody that you care for or that you respect or that you're trying to have a hard conversation with because you're collaborating together on something that matters. Observe without judgment. It's really hard to do that, but that's why you need to ground yourself in step number one and continue grounding yourself. Observe what's coming up for you. Name your feelings in the moment. I'm feeling uncomfortable. This thing that you said, it brought up all of this stuff within me, and I'm feeling really activated. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling sad. I feel really alone. And then identify the unmet need. So you observe, babe, when you came home and threw your socks on the floor, I really felt so sad. And why I felt sad is there was this part of me that came up that told myself a story that you don't care about me. The story that's going through my head is you think that it's my job to do that. And that makes me feel not cared for. It makes me feel so unwanted and like we're not partners. You identify the unmet need. You need partnership. And then you make the request. How can we work together on this? How can we work together to make sure that the house is kept up? Because that's a really big need of mine. I don't want us to have to fight. I don't want to have to go through this, but I have this need for orderliness and cleanliness, and I need us to find a way to work on this together. So what can we do? Observe without judgment. So you make the observation of what you saw. You name your feelings and identify the need that has gone unmet, and then you make a request. You're not demanding, you're making a request. And you're trying to avoid the four horsemen while doing that. Not, you did this and you're such a selfish prick and that, like, hello, that doesn't help. I know you're frustrated, but that's why you need help grounding. Observe without judgment, name your feelings, identify the unmet need or rupture, make the clear request. This is called the nonviolent communication model of effective communication. And lastly, reprocess. So after step 1, you repair what's coming up within you. Step 2, you share what your experience is. Step 3 is reprocess. So this is where you're going to come back together with this person and reprocess the event so that you can come back together stronger. Not fighting of, you know what, you said this and da 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 da, which does not help at all. But you come back together. You co-regulate together. Maybe you take 5 minutes apart and then you come back together and you sit on the couch and you hold each other. Or if it's a friend of yours, you guys go for a walk together, or you go for a drive, or, you hang out on the couch if that's what you're comfortable with. Co-regulate, help each other feel safe together. Name what happened and any missed points. Was there anything that wasn't said in that conversation that either of you wants to bring up now? And again, use what you learned in step 2. Make an observation, identify the feeling, identify the thought and the need, and then make a request. Identify the emotions that were experienced in that dialogue together. Reflect on your contribution without shame. Was there anything you did that you wish you didn't? Is there anything you're proud of that you're like, honestly, I'm really proud that I was able to show up in that way, because in the past, you know me, I would have flipped out. But this time, this time I showed up in the way that I really want to. And then decide together what's next. What happens? If you follow this, and I know this is heavy, so rewatch this a couple of times. And if you're interested, I can send you the link for the slides. So if you want to DM me or put a comment down below and say slides, I'll send them over to you if you just put your email in there. If you follow these steps, watch this video as often as you can and as often as you need to. And if you really follow these steps, I guarantee you will never fight again. You might have difficult conversations. You might have challenges come up, but you will never fight again. And you'll be able to have hard conversations without blowing up or without retracting and without fear, because you won't need to, because you'll have the skills that you need to do it well. If this is something that you want help with, please send me a message, book on my calendar. I have time available. It's completely free. I'm not going to sell you anything, where we can dive in and work on this together. Please like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And I can't wait to see you next time.